Hey, Taurus, Mel, intuitive coach here. Excited to bring in your February 2025 monthly reading. If you're interested in a personal reading, signing up for the monthly newsletter, or entering into the free reading giveaway, you can find all of that information in the description box below the video. All right, you have some interesting themes showing up here for you in the month of February. You have memories followed by breakthrough, and then you have wanderlust. So to me, it feels like there's been an old story that perhaps you were telling yourself. This could be an old memory, an old life, an old relationship or job, something of the past, whether the past is 10 years ago or even 10 months ago, maybe 10 days ago, because that is also the past. There's a breakthrough here when it comes to reliving out an old story or old pain, old conditioning. And because one is seeking a breakthrough, it tells me that there has been a bit of confusion. Now, your first two cards out here, you have two major arcanas. You have the Tower and the Moon and the Ten of Swords. Yeah, so this tells me that there's a memory here that doesn't feel so comfortable. This is the month where there is a breakthrough, a realization, a moment of truth where something clicks. Something comes together. It feels like the moon had caused illusions or maybe even buried some sort of pain deep in your subconscious. But I feel like the moon is showing up here saying, wait a second, we don't have to sit in this any longer. We don't have to embrace that energy over and over and over. Even if you're not consciously aware of it, it is still impacting your every move. It's still impacting your relationships that you are trying to strengthen. It may be impacting your health in some way. And I feel like you are exposing the truth. Some sort of truth is being brought to the surface here. It wouldn't surprise me to see the Ace of Swords or some sort of truth card. Okay, well, the Emperor, I mean, he's all about the truth. So there is a big energy here of empowerment. And the fact that you have wanderlust as well, the wanderlust card is expansion. Now, Aquarian energy, which is the primary energy in February until we roll into Pisces season on the 19th, Aquarian energy is all about expansion of consciousness, expanding the mind. And you have the Devil at the bottom of the deck here. I'll just show you. You have the Devil. So you are loosening the bond that may have, may have tethered to you in some way. For those of you that may be into zodiacal releasing, not many people have heard of that, but zodiacal releasing can pinpoint certain years, dates, down to the days in itself, down to the minutes, I believe, of certain events, certain things that take place in your life based on your astrological chart. It's a very neat thing. I'm new into it, so I don't know too much, but there is a thing called loosening of the bond. So I feel for some of you that maybe what's going on where you had to go through a situation, or you did go through a situation that was here to help you grow. Some of you, it's addictions. I mean, that's what the Devil is. Addictions can come in all shapes, sizes, and forms. It's not just limited to alcohol and drugs, right? It can be sex addictions, shopping. It can be overconsumption, social media, gaming. It can be addiction to even trying to heal in a sense. We can become addicted. And what that means is we consume all of our energy, put it towards something. And even if that something is healthy, if it starts to throw us off balance, if we become attached to it, that's when it becomes toxic. When we become so attached to it that other areas of our lives suffer, that becomes an addiction. Now, I do see here you may have broken some sort of family cycle as well. Perhaps an energy of maybe alcoholism in a bloodline, or perhaps you have worked with your ancestral karma in some way. I feel like family or ancestors is part of this because the memory can sometimes be tethered to bloodline. And for others of you, remembering that the body keeps score. The body remembers everything, even the experience through the womb. And we don't often remember those things because we sometimes have spiritual amnesia, but the body remembers, causing us to unconsciously move into a sense of fight or flight or fawn. And I've been talking about this so often because we are repairing our DNA. That is something that Spirit has been bringing to my awareness specifically for 2025. There is an up leveling here of repair work being done to our DNA. So new codes, new healing, new missions here in a sense for us to really embrace ourselves on a completely different level than what we've been doing. It feels like there's a shedding of an old skin. So for those of you that are light workers, healers, spiritual seekers, coaches, teachers, mentors, I just posted a video last night. I will post it in the playlist. It's the collective playlist at the end of the video. Check that out if you haven't watched it already. But there's a lot of important nuggets of information for those of you out there that are called to work on, your spiritual path more, which I feel is all of you that are tuning into this channel, because you're all spiritual seekers. We all are in a sense. So there's an old story. You may even be writing a memoir. You may be sharing your experiences through some form of teaching as well. This is about reminiscing, and some of you were reminiscing in an uncomfortable way, right? It was an old story that you were going over and over and over in your mind, and it felt sticky and icky and uncomfortable. And I feel if that was the case, for some of you, there is a tower coming in here to say, wait a second, we can destroy these old structures. You don't have to stay stuck in that double energy. You have the ability with the moon in reverse to expose the truth, to trust in your intuitive pathway, your intuitive guidance and navigational center. You can put an end to some sort of karmic trauma or betrayal. I always say when you hit rock bottom, there's only one way up from there. And oftentimes when the 10 of Swords comes in, this is about, the worst is behind you. And I feel like it really is here with the breakthrough coming in, some sort of experience that you've gone through, Taurus. Yes, it came in like a wrecking ball, and it may have really impacted your life in a huge way. And I see that now you may tend to drop into a little bit of that fear sometimes and even catastrophize. You see that on the moon card, the house cat is looking into the reflection and it sees a black panther. I feel like there is a level of empowerment as you realize your truth, that you are not your story, right? That you are not your past, but you experienced a fraction of it. And you don't have to constantly be in some sort of, again, fight, which can be defense mode, where we put up a wall, we put up a barrier, we're constantly fighting, right? Fighting to hang on, fighting to let go, or it just feels like it's a constant battle, it's a constant struggle. It feels like there's a lot of drama and our defenses go up and we feel like we got to prepare to go to war. Or we flight, we become avoidant. We disengage from our bodies, from our own intuition. We kind of check out. Or we fawn. We people please. We tend to overextend ourselves and we give so much to others that we don't often have enough for ourselves, which depletes us, and it causes mental, physical, spiritual, emotional imbalance. And I see that you're putting an end to one of those things, maybe a combination of them all. You're putting an end to it. You're saying, I am living for me. That is the kicker. You are living for you here. This is wanderlust. This is the breakthrough. I think that's the realization. You're saying, wait a second. Am I living my full purpose, my full mission here on earth that I possibly can? Or am I letting one of those fight, flight, or fawns get in the way, keeping me stuck, keeping me small? Or can I blow this all up and move in a new direction? And some of you, this is a literal move with wanderlust. For some of you, you're being called to visit new lands, maybe go on a spiritual retreat. This can be travel, expeditions, tourism. It can even be, a vacationing here, where if you haven't had a vacation in 20 years, what are you waiting for, right? Some of you are like, Mel, finances, or, there's been this that's held me back, or this. So whatever your dream is, I feel like you're now focusing your energy towards what it is that you truly want for you. And maybe that means you setting aside a certain amount of money each month, or for you to maybe sacrifice something in order for you to reach that dream for yourself. And I see that you're not going to put limitations or restrictions or a box around something anymore. Perhaps that's how it's felt. You're breaking out of that, because the devil here showing up at the bottom of the deck is addictions, manipulation, bondage, codependency, even materialism. So perhaps the sacrifice in itself is living with less stuff. But in all reality, sometimes that is the greatest blessing. I one time read in a Wayne Dyer book that he ended up selling everything or getting rid of it, and he moved to Hawaii. Right? He got rid of all of his books, all of his belongings, and moved. He picked up and just left. And some of you may have that strong calling to reduce some of your things, your personal belongings. For others of you, you want to live a simpler life without these attachments to things. Okay? It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy or have nicer things in life, but it just feels, if there are certain attachments, or you feel like you had to wait for something to happen, like I can't do that until I retire, or I can't open myself up to love until this, or whatever we tend to wait for. I feel like you're saying, I'm not going to wait anymore, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. I need to start living for today. And that's where this beautiful Hierophant comes in. I love the illusion here, or I should say the illustration of the Hierophant, because you can see that there is a teacher, a yoga teacher, it looks like, teaching these two students in front of her mindfulness, breath work, how to stay calm within the chaos, how to bring peace to the mind, because it's through that peaceful energy within that no matter what is going on around us, that we can stay centered and stay grounded, and we can stay in touch with ourselves. And perhaps somewhere along the line there, Taurus, you may have felt a little bit disconnected. But because the Hierophant is showing up, a lot of you are being called to either be the teacher at this time or to be the student. And I feel like this is going to bring about a shedding, a letting go of limiting beliefs. That's why you even have the shadow work at the bottom of the deck, right? You have the shadow. So I feel like this shadow for you, again, we have addictions showing up. We have that coming up a few different times in your reading. So Taurus, whether this be something worth investing in on your own archetype, right? This could be something of your own self, or it could be a family situation, or someone you are dealing with has really been in that frequency here of inner healing required or needed, post-traumatic stress, which is tapping into that that nervous system of the fight or flight or fawn, which I just mentioned. Some of you may even be looking into like EMDR or TRE. If you're not familiar with those things, then you're probably not looking into them. But if you are curious about alternative forms of therapy, you can certainly look into. A lot of people who struggle with post-traumatic stress really benefit from TRE or EMDR. And I also see here buried emotions maybe coming up to the surface with the moon. Now the moon is Pisces, and this has been showing up for a couple of signs. I mean, you're only the second one that I'm doing for the monthly so far, but Aries also received the moon. And so I think Pisces season is going to be a big one. Not only is this a big season coming into February, but we are also in the North Node, Pisces energy, South Node, Virgo. So it's all about bringing these things up. How do we feel? And sometimes, we sit in that discomfort, and sometimes that's exactly what we need to do, is sit in that uncomfortable energy, that space, because it's through that empty void in a sense. And if that resonates with you and you have Aries in your chart, go check that reading out. But it's sitting in that empty void for a bit, because that's really where that clarity will come. And you may have been dealing with some trauma, some buried emotions, or gone to therapy and maybe even reached out to healers, shamans, therapists, coaches, mentors, or you are being called to help lift the shadow, lift the veil for mankind, for humanity. And if you are called to do so, this is the time. Again, there's that video that I posted for, light workers and truth seekers. Check that out. Now, diving into the tarot, I see here that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 major arcana showing up. This is a big time for you, Taurus. If you're called to the title of the reading, or if this is resonating, this is a big time for you in your life. The Hierophant is shedding limiting beliefs and finding new ways, new teachings, new mentors, new connections to your own divine self, your higher power, in order for you to live in this ever-changing world, for you to embrace your own limitless potential. This is key. This is important here for you. That's why, it's interesting that you have 3 cards that are kind of veered off to the left. This is what you're still working through. It's kind of that energy of the Tower, the Ten of Swords, the Moon, a little bit of uncertainty as you're rebuilding here. But then you have this beautiful Hierophant that's centered in your reading. And then we move over here to the balance. Oh, I love this. We have the Queen of Swords in reverse. We have the Emperor and the Two of Pentacles. So there's more Aries energy here, but the Two of Pentacles is balance. It is, being able to stay calm within crisis. He is on the teeter-totter. You can see that he's standing on the teeter-totter, balancing up those pentacles, and it's also the infinity symbol here. And the cat is jumping on the one side of the teeter-totter, which could potentially cause an imbalance, right? Even though the cat doesn't weigh a ton, it could throw him off, it could distract him. But when he's in that space of magic, when he's in that energy of, what you've been learning, teaching with the Hierophant, no matter what is thrown on that teeter-totter, you don't have to be thrown off balance here, is the message. And because you're standing in your power, empowerment with this Emperor. Now, Queen of Swords showing up in reverse, she's not fun. When she's angry, when she's mad, when she's in the reverse, she can manipulate, she can be bossy, she can be cold, she can cut you off, she can lack empathy, right? She can be all vengeance, when she is angry and mad, because of injustice, maybe because of misplaced truths is what I'm getting. Misplaced truths. Okay, so someone may have lied to her. Perhaps someone has done her dirty. Now, if this is you, right, if this is a part of yourself that has gone cold, maybe to someone else, I feel like you are finding peace within that, maybe even some sort of forgiveness. If this is someone else, Taurus, that you have dealt with, I feel like you're not giving it any energy. You're actually, I don't want to say appreciating it now for what it is, but you can be grateful in a sense that that lesson or that opportunity taught you a lot about yourself. And perhaps the best case scenario was for you to move on from that dynamic 10 of swords, but you don't have to shut yourself off to empathy or to love. Okay. And that's where the emperor shows up. Now, the emperor is disciplined. And that's what it takes in a sense. In yoga, discipline of the mind, training of the mind. Because the mind, the brain is like a muscle. We have to condition it daily. We have to continue telling ourselves our personal truth, our story, because whatever story we feed it, that is through the lens that we create our reality. And I feel like you are rising above here with this Empress. You're rising above. You have this sense of personal sovereignty, this sense of personal stability here. There's some structure ahead of you. And I feel like you're releasing control. And sometimes structure and control feel like they can be hand in hand. But I feel like this is what's within your own control. Anything that's out of your control, you are letting it go. You're finding peace within it. And there's where the balance comes in. Two of Pentacles can also be balancing work and play. Okay, for those of you that needed a change, there is a change coming in between your work life and your play life. For others of you, you're weighing up some pros and cons at this time. If I exit, if I leave, can I move full time over in this area? Or if this is a relationship, how can I balance it out and give enough attention and love, but yet bring in financial abundance? So I feel like this is something we all strive for, is bringing balance into our lives, right? But sometimes we know that certain things need more attention depending on what's going on. So that may have been the case in the past. Maybe your health needed a bit more attention. Perhaps your career, you focused on that. You gave that a lot of attention. Perhaps you were raising children and you focused a lot of your time and energy on that. So this just tells me that in the grand scheme of things, that something you've given a lot of attention to is finally coming to the forefront in either a healed way or it's no longer relevant in your life. And now you can put your attention or your focus on something else, because in the grand scheme of things, that's what balance is, right? Because it's the ebb and flow of life. And I see here that you've done a really wonderful job, Taurus. You really have. You should pat yourself on the back because you are regaining your footing in a sense, right? That's what he's doing there on that teeter-totter. He's regaining his balance, his footing. And perhaps you were thrown off. And that doesn't mean that you failed. If that teeter-totter came in and you fell off one time, 10 times, or 1,000 times, the universe never tires of giving us second chance, because that teeter-totter is still going to be there for us to recenter, rebalance, reground. All right, let's look at health. For some of you, it's stress management, right? Stress management. So perhaps doing some yoga, some meditation, maybe those healing alternatives that I gave you earlier, TRE, which is trauma response exercises, which I've just become trained in that, not fully, but started the process of it, which it is incredible. It activates the polyvagal nervous system. Some of you may have heard of, or polyvagal nerves, and it activates the body's tremor response, which can release trauma. It's really quite interesting. And then EMDR, I think that is, oh goodness, eye movement, rapid, something of that nature. I forget what it stands for, but You may be looking into alternative forms of healing the mind, healing the body, and healing emotionally as well from some sort of stored trauma. You may even be reading The Body Keeps Score. You're trying to eat healthier. Pay attention to, I'm getting gluten for some of you. You may have some gluten sensitivities as well. And I'm getting cucumber water. So you may benefit from maybe drinking or adding cucumber to your diet or to your water. Please take that as it resonates. And I also see here working with new, maybe not just new, but working with a professional that knows their stuff. So if you are connecting to a professional, whether it be a practitioner or a shaman or a healer or someone in the medical field, I feel like someone really does know their stuff here, and they're going to help rebalance or regulate your nervous system, or whatever's going on in the body. There could be an extra healer or a mentor, someone coming in or someone already here. I'm also getting reproductive system, because Pisces energy can rule the reproductive system, possibly hormones, hormone therapy, hormone replacement, cyst, endometriosis, and it can even be colonoscopy, things of that nature for those of you gentlemen. But I also see the moon is about emotions. So regulating your emotional center, maybe again, hormonal changes showing up here. Some of you could be going through menopause, or perhaps you've gone through that, and you could even be going through a Saturn return. For those of you that may be around that 59, 58 to 60, if you're not familiar with Saturn return, look that up. All right, let's look at finances, money, abundance, career. For those of you that are, business owners, work in the corporate world, retired, we'll look at it all here. So we may have some writers in the house. Taurus, we have the writing energy, and it says words are magic. Use them to manifest more abundance. Blogger, content writer, book writer, or in any other creative writing profession, which is big here because I feel like you are being called to write things down, take notes. You could even be journaling at this time. You could be taking a class where notes are required, or, writing your life story, as I mentioned earlier. Your words have the power to influence. So share your gift with the world. Absolutely. Your story matters. And I feel like you have a script, you have a story, and maybe by writing it down, even if you share it with one person or the entire world, or it's just for your own personal use to get it off your chest, to get it out of your mind and onto paper, that is healing in itself. And I feel like your story matters here, but there's something about writing. Now, we do have the take off card. Beautiful. For those of you that are thinking about expanding in an idea or a business, it does say things will take off much sooner than you expected. And it feels like the second you release that devil energy, the second that you embrace instead of resist the 10 of Swords and fully let go, I see here that things move quite quickly. All right. Now is a good time to take action. There is no stopping you now. And that's the truth. All right. I feel like you do have a clear plan, but for those of you that may not have a clear plan, don't be brash, don't be impulsive and just, pick up everything and leave on a dime. Unless you're feeling compelled and called, of course, but I feel like it's important to at least have some logistics into play. All right. Now we have investments. Finances are looking good, or they're starting to grow, or they may be coming back into a state of balance here. This is a great time to invest. Set a strong foundation, and you will see the fruits of your labor paying off. Well, with the Emperor, those fruits will definitely grow to copious amounts. Whatever those fruits are for you. All right. Whatever it is that you want to invest in. And this can be personal growth. Yes, we're talking about finances and abundance, but it also can be spiritual wealth as well. It's time to invest in the things that spiritually uplift you, is what I'm being told. I'm also getting the name Brody or Brady could be significant. Take that as it resonates. Now we have Rose showing up here. There is financial relief available. Some of you, this is about being in a supportive, loving role, maybe even a caregiver role. This is about job security, and you have the ability to continue growing. So there may be some sort of financial relief coming in. Maybe it's an inheritance or a settlement. Perhaps it's a raise or a refund of some sort. I also feel like this is about expanding the mind. So Aquarian energy is all about expansion. And you can see that the rosebuds are starting to open up. They're starting to bloom. Now, some of you have ideas, you have businesses, and maybe it's been a little bit of a slow period. Some of you had to end, maybe sell a business, or you may have felt like you had failed, right? Maybe something failed or went under. But if you can look beyond that and say, okay, just because this went under, because this failed or this ended, it doesn't mean that that's the end all be all. You can sit in that space, that empty space that we talked about earlier, but in that empty space is where that vast potential exists. And I feel like you have the ability to grow in a beautiful new direction here. I like this. And the Emperor tells me that, if you've gone cold, for some of you, if there's a situation that's gone cold, your heart's not there, you don't have a lot of desire to show up in that position, I feel like you could be getting a new offer, all right? Two of Pentacles could be a new choice coming in for you, a new offer coming in, or perhaps right now you're weighing out your options, weighing out pros and cons, but you also could be taking some of that investment, that energy, that commitment, and applying it to something that has the potential to grow over time. So maybe that's the sacrifice. I thought I said that earlier. There could be a bit of a sacrifice where you are staying in this position, but instead of focusing on all the negativity or all the fear or not being there, you're applying some of that energy towards something you do want to do. And there's a little bit of a sacrifice by weighing up some pros and cons. All right, let's look at love. All right, we have the addiction card, which we've talked about a few times. Some of you are dealing with codependencies within yourself or others. Now, codependency, there's so much to be unraveled within that one word. It's not just being codependent in a relationship towards someone else's happiness, right? And yes, that's a big picture of it, but it can be codependent to things, to people, to places. And if you want to explore more, if codependency is something that resonates with you, if you haven't already read Melody Beattie's book, Codependent No More, that is an excellent, excellent resource. This is about obsession. Sometimes that devil is obsessive energy here, obsessively thinking about an old story, something that's ended, why someone ghosted, why someone tore it all apart, why did they do it when they had everything? It could have been really wonderful. And we tend to spiral. We tend to get our mind tends to feel out of control, and that can cause that emotional block. Possession, right? Possession. Sometimes that Queen of Swords, when you make her mad, she can become very controlling, very possessive as well. So I feel like that is something you are disengaging from. Now you have the Sword and the Rose. This is clarity and truth. Remember in the beginning, I said I was picking up on some sort of truth, and I said it wouldn't surprise me to get the Ace of Swords. This is my Ace of Swords in this deck, and it's clarity and truth. It is a breakthrough. It's a revelation. But in order to have that, there needs to be a sense of honor, right? A sense of personal truth showing up here as well, coming out of maybe denial or leaving behind that betrayal, and a sense of determination. And wait a second, we have the Rose twice. Spirit said the Rose. So yep, this is financial relief, being content. Some sort of support was ripped out from underneath you. Yeah, some sort of support, whether this was financial support, whether this was the support of a loved one. This, it feels like that's kind of what what had contributed to the Ten of Swords, but you are rebuilding and you're finding your peace despite what had occurred. And I see here now that when it comes to relationships, when it comes to love, you may be focusing on your abundance. And remember what I said about, you put a lot of energy towards something else for quite some time. Now you're kind of reconfiguring things, you're rebalancing things out in order for you to find that positive mindset in a way. That's what it says here. This is manifestation, gratitude, and bliss, as well as blessings. So for some of you that were in a relationship, it went south, okay, or there was a massive ending. If this is a family dynamic, something within the family structure was blown up. There were some truths, maybe some betrayal, some lies, some things that you weren't able to see because they were masked by illusion, maybe masked by ego or fear. And I feel some of you could have fought over money. Perhaps money was a big factor that contributed to some sort of pain or ending here. But perhaps there's a rebalancing taking place where you're able to reconcile your differences, okay? Or perhaps there's a settlement. I am getting here a reconciling, even if it's with oneself. You will be able to rebuild. You will be able to climb up. You will be able to replenish what has been lost in not only finances, but in love. You will replenish what has been lost. That's the message. Wow. All right. Last but not least, your archetype is the self. And Taurus, I don't know if I have ever read this card. And I absolutely love this book and this oracle. It is the Wild Unknown. You can always find all of the oracles used or tarot used in the description box, but this is a new one. So I'm just going to find it here in the book. The Self. All right, one moment here. All right, we have the self. This is the soul, the witness, the watcher. The self is the prism that allows the spectrum of our personalities to radiate. It does not judge, prohibit, suppress, or oppress any of its parts, as it lovingly knows that all aspects have a time and a place, and leads us to experience the full breadth of life's offerings. The self is the central abiding container, the awareness of the infinite universe of possibilities. When this card appears, it's a call to step back into witness consciousness, to observe yourself navigating the world. Ask yourself, am I the stew or am I the chef? In most situations, our ego draws us into the cauldron where we swirl, spin, and smolder in chaos. Yet the self is a graceful culinary dancer, watching, waiting, observing, as the spectrum of ingredients become the flavor of our life. Look in the mirror for 30 seconds or more. Attempt to see the you behind the you. Wow, that's a beautiful one. This is about witnessing, accepting new aspects of self when it's in the light. Now, when it's in the shadow, oh, look at that. Look at if you're looking at the screen right now, just moving it feels like there's the prisms, right? So there's a part of yourself that you are exploring, discovering at this time. The shadow is disjointed, fatigued, diffused energy and purpose. If you want to go deeper, check out Robert Bly, watch Robert Bly, or read Kabir's poem, This Clay Jug. It's no surprise that two central mantras in the yoga tradition concern themselves with the self. Experiment with Soham, I am that, and Sat Nam, true identity. So for those of you yogis out there, because we do have a yogi sitting in the middle of your reading, those could be two parts that you work with, two mantras. It says if this card is perplexing for you, you are on the right track. All right. If this is perplexing, you're on the right track. It challenges us to expand our sense of identity beyond the little self, and the ego resists such movements. Yes, it does. And that's what we see here. I mean, that's the vibe of your reading, where you are sitting in that tower. And there may even feel at times like a bit of an identity crisis, as I've heard it called. But I always say identity awakening, right? Or midlife awakening. And it feels like you are exploring a new part of your psyche. This is accepting a new aspect of self. So I feel like this is a very powerful time for you. As I mentioned, all these major arcana showing up. This is a huge time in your life to really reflect beyond the you. Taurus, that is what I have for you. If this resonates, please hit that thumbs up button. Feel free to share, like, subscribe. It certainly helps the growth of the channel. It certainly helps spread the messages out there to those that need it most, which I greatly appreciate. And of course, Taurus, if you haven't already checked out the reading, the last collective reading, check that out if you are called to. And thank you again so much for tuning in and being here. Lots of love.